Tianbao Fu Yao Lu. Chapter 210. An encounter with an old friend. Yuan Kun staggered and roared, "Qing Xiang!" Qing Xiang's face was gloomy and Yuan Kun suddenly became quiet. Behind him, Yu Zayun walked in slowly. The hostile atmosphere between the Kun god and the Peking suddenly dissipated, as if nothing had happened. When will His Majesty come back? Yu Zayun looked directly at Qing Xiang and asked calmly. Soon, Qing Xiang said coldly. Yu Zayun's eyes slanted to Yuan Kun and said leisurely, "The Kun god seems to have experienced a fierce battle. Did you have a fight with the exorcists?" Yuan Kun didn't answer and instead, he turned around and left the hall. Yu Zayun cast a meaningful glance at him from behind. Qing Xiang said in a deep voice, "Yu Zayun, what exactly do you want to say?" "The corpse ghost king asked me to ask you." Yu Zayun raised his eyebrows softly, "You just left Xiaoyu underground. Aren't you going to send someone to watch him?" "It's none of your business, fox." Yu Zayun stared at Qing Xiang for a long time and then sighed, "Well, we are brother and sister after all. I was wondering if I should have a chat with him before I die." "You'll have to ask the exorcists about that," Qing Xiang answered. It was obvious that he did not want to continue this topic of conversation as he deflected, "Where are your brethren?" "They are on the way." Yu Zayun said lightly, "They must be coming soon." As she turned to leave, Qing Xiang said, "Tell the corpse ghost king for me that he doesn't need to worry about things here." Yu Zayun snorted, seeming to be mocking but also seeming to be disgusted. As Qing Xiang stood up, he said, "I'll keep it in mind and will plead for you." Yu Zayun said lightly, "Thank you." Soon afterwards, she left the hall, leaving only Qing Xiang, who remained in the empty hall. It was just like how many years ago, Chongming was left sitting alone in the middle of Yejin Palace. Hung Jun was locked up in a prison in Luoyang. His hands and feet were shackled. He was surprised to find that he recognized these shackles. They were iron chains that were used to shackle flying birds in Yejin Palace. There were some patterns engraved on them. When he exerted his strength, the shackles shimmered with light. However, he found that they were not even necessary. He discovered that when he slightly raised his qi, the meridians in his body were blocked. His qi would get stuck in his chest and would no longer flow. The phoenix sacred fire was condensed in his dantian but were unable to spread to his limbs and bones. He was poisoned with something especially potent to avian creatures. It made him felt dizzy and unable to concentrate. He tried to pry open the shackles but his whole body was not able to muster the strength. "Can you escape?" a voice said in the darkness. Hung Jun immediately turned his head and saw a pair of flickering blue eyes in the darkness. "Yu Zayun." Hung Jun hurriedly crawled to that corner. Two foxes came out of the darkness. One was Yu Zayun, and the other white fox avoided Hung Jun's sight. It cried out a few times and tried to pry his shackles open with its claws. "It's one of my subordinates," Yu Zayun said. "Don't worry about him." Hung Jun hurriedly asked, "Are you aware of what's going on?" Yu Zayun raised her head to look at Hung Jun, then she turned her head to the ear of the little white fox, and whispered a few instructions. The little white fox then crawled out of the prison. "It can't be unlocked." Hung Jun tried almost everything but to no avail. He continued, "I've been poisoned. I don't know exactly what kind of poison Qing Xiang used on me." "Ba snake's fang venom," Yu Zayun replied in a low voice. "After you left, I saw him collecting the venom. Ba snake venom has a strong suppressive effect on avian like you. Back then, Chongming was bitten by a Xiao. That's why he remained poisoned for a long time." "Hung Jun, why would Qing Xiang?" "Hush." Yu Zayun turned his head and listened with her furry fox ears, as if checking for any movement. "Let's make it concise. Kong Hung Jun, Qing Xiang and Yuan Kun are in cahoots. Did you know?" Of course, Hung Jun knew. He told Yu Zayun about the incident at Zoage Basin in the snowstorm Sacred Mountain. Just as he was relating Yuan Kun's sudden appearance, Yu Zayun interrupted him and said, "I understand. To tell you the truth, ever since you left the Divine Land, I had been paying attention to those two. As early as when we moved the Yaojin Palace, I already felt that something was wrong with that bastard Qing Xiang. As soon as you left, Qing Xiang asked Yuan Kun to kidnap you and bring you back. He didn't want you to be with the exorcists anymore. But he didn't want to kill me." Hung Jun murmured. "No, I don't think so." Yu Zayun whispered, "But this is more than enough. You're the Yao King and they're openly plotting a rebellion." "I didn't want to be." Hong Jun said, "Why did it have to be like this?" Yu Zayun suddenly held her breath and all the hair in her body seemed to stand on end. Hung Jun felt it and he looked quietly at Yu Zayun. The aura of a fox emanating from Yu Zayun's body suddenly filled the whole prison cell. "Say that again." Yu Zayun said coldly. Hong Jun knew that she was angry because of what he had said. "I'm sorry." Hong Jun said, "I take it back. It's just that." Yu Zayun's fox aura gradually receded and she stared at Hung Jun's eyes. Hung Jun was silent for a moment, avoiding her gaze. However, that didn't stop him from feeling as if there was no part of his body that was not under her scrutiny. "It was Qing Xiang who pushed me to this position," Hong Jun said helplessly. "It was Chongming who bestowed the position of the Yao King to you." Yu Zayun's tone softened and she continued, "This was the hope that your biological father and your adoptive father had for you. Do you think that the position of the Yao King is something that he can do whatever he wants with?" Hong Jun turned his head and stared back at Yu Zayun's eyes. Yu Zayun added, "We, myself and the Corpse Ghost King acknowledged you, but we will never acknowledge the golden-winged Great Peng. This must be clearly stated to you today. Otherwise, in the sacred land, my beast race would not have pledged our loyalty to you." Hong Jun's heart was full of mixed feelings and he apologizes once again, "I'm sorry." The first apology was for his irresponsible words and the second was an acknowledgement of Yu Zayun's expectations. "Why?" Hong Jun said. "Because only you have the ability," Yu Zayun whispered, "to lead the Yao race into a better future." While they were speaking, the little fox came back holding a wooden bowl in its mouth. As it hurriedly walked, it spilled most of the water in a bowl, leaving only some at the bottom. It placed the bowl on the floor and gently pushed it in with its claws. Hung Jun said, "I'm ashamed to say this, but I never thought about it." "Drink," Yu Zayun said. Hung Jun picked up the bowl and looked up to drink the water brought by the little fox. The water had a salty taste, but it made him feel much better. At this time, Yu Zayun said, "You are willing to endure the torture of the devil seed and suffer on behalf and for the sake of both the human and the Yao of the divine land. However, your temperament is too weak." "I have no choice." Hong Jun raised his hand and wiped the corner of his lips. He smiled bitterly and said, "The devil seed is in my body. I was destined to die in the past, so what else can I do? Speaking of which, why do I feel that I've seen you before?" The little fox looked up at Hong Jun, his bright eyes reflected his face. "Stop talking nonsense." Yu Zayun waited for Hong Jun to finish drinking the bowl of water and whispered, "You have to figure out a way to escape first. Those two bastards have already planned to gather all the Yao in the world and accuse you of colluding with the exorcist in order to kill Li Jinglong and the others. Then they intend to seal you under Famen Temple." For a moment in Hong Jun's heart trembled. He knew that Li Jinglong would definitely come to rescue him. It was said that Mara was still in Luoyang and Qing Xiang must have set a trap. He hurriedly said, "Qing Xiang is fine, but the Kun God can predict the future. That's very dangerous. He will definitely know that you're here." "On the contrary," Yu Zayun said, "you're overestimating Yuan Kun. I've tested him a few times. His predictions about the future are not completely accurate and he only knows." Hong Jun. Yu Zeyun was still very vigilant and kept looking around with the little fox. After ensuring that there's no one else around, she started explaining in a whisper, Yuan Kun can see the future but his predictions could still be interfered with. The power of Mara, the divine power of Akalanatha, the divine power of Dipankara, these three are constantly interfering with his predictions. Also, he has some limitations when he uses his power to gain insight into some details. For example, if he is making predictions for tomorrow, then he'll have to concentrate for tomorrow's event so he won't be able to make predictions for the events of today. We can take advantage of that to try and rescue you. Hung Jun said, as long as I got out of these shackles, I can escape. Yu Zeyun said, this is a magical artifact of your Yeajin palace. I can't do anything about it. We have to wait for Qing Xiang to come. Be careful, Hung Jun. Qing Xiang is the most dangerous. Hung Jun frowned, looking at Yu Zeyun. The Kun god can predict the future, and Peking had insight into people's hearts. Yu Zeyun whispered, Qing Xiang's greatest skill is his ability to read the mind. As long as he stands in front of you, he will know what you are thinking right away. Nothing can be hidden from him. When he comes to you. Suddenly, Yu Zeyun turned around with the little white fox at the same time and both hid in the darkness. Hung Jun sensed danger and immediately turned his head. The sound of footsteps could be heard. Hung Jun laid down decisively while the two foxes closed their eyes in the darkness. The prison door was opened and a figure pushed the door in. The newcomer squatted on the ground and used its sharp claws to squeeze Hung Jun's throat. Hung Jun couldn't breathe for a moment and was dragged up in shackles. He opened his eyes and tried to shout out but he found that he couldn't make a sound. That was when he saw a dry and almost pitch-black face. It's the drought fiend. Hung Jun's heart was beating violently at that moment as he thought of the friends he left behind on the temple by the Aral Sea, wondering if they were still safe or if Qing Xiang had. At this moment, a voice came into his ear. They are still alive, I overheard it. Don't worry, be calm. The voice was very familiar. Hung Jun finally remembered the face of that little fox and heard that young man's voice again and he trembled. That's Du Hanking. It was the little fox he rescued during the imperial examination case. He was the one Li Jinglong agreed to let go. After so many years, he ran into him again. Hung Jun's heart was filled with mixed emotions. The voice was a little weak as it said, Your Highness, the water you drank contained my tears, which was why you can temporarily hear my voice in your mind, but in front of Qing Xiang, don't think of me. The sound became softer and softer as the drought fiend's Yao power overwhelmed it. The drought fiend dragged Hung Jun through the prison corridor and Du Hanking's voice got completely disconnected like a hairspring. At Yuzhou, in the temporary base of the exorcism department, Li Jinglong galloped on his horse. He hadn't slept for several days. When he reached the hall, he almost fell to the ground. Mo Rijin hurriedly ran forward to help Li Jinglong. Hung Jun has been. Li Jinglong started, but then he caught sight of the bundled up Yao binding rope on the table. Lu Su, Qiu Yangxi, and A Tai have already returned. Dad. Chen Feng ran from the side of the corridor. He hugged Li Jinglong's leg as he asked, Where's my mother? Li Jinglong let out a long sigh and went down on his knees. Qiu Yangxi poured a glass of water for him. Only then did Yu Zhou, who had tied up the horse, came in from the outside. Everyone looked at each other in dismay. Obviously, they didn't need to say anything to understand what had happened. Spring in Yuzhou is very cold. There were scattered rain all over the Ba Mountain and the Shu area. Li Jinglong wrapped himself up in a thick fur jacket, drank 3 glasses of water in succession and then said, We have to prepare and leave for Luoyang. We can win. Everyone, believe in me. I also believe in everyone. Qing Xiang. Qiu Yangxi only asked with these 2 words. Yuan Kun. Li Jinglong replied, then he closed his eyes and fell sideways. Zhenqi. Dad. Everyone rushed forward. Chu Yongxi waved his hand to indicate that things were fine. He touched Li Jinglong's forehead and said, "He's sick. He probably caught a cold. Go get some medicine so he can drink it. He'll be fine after a good night's sleep. I'm going to pack up and get ready to leave." Mo Rijin said. Tu Raindoct went to look for the medicine while everyone set out one after another. The snow continuously fell and melted in Luoyang. It had been a full year since they last left the capital. The ruined Ming Hall had become an open-air hall that was covered in snow. The collapsed pillar, the broken dragon chair, the overturned tables and countless broken objects were covered with a layer of snow. This abandoned town was incomparably quiet except for the sound of Hung Jun's shackles that were being dragged on the ground. Qing Xiang sat in the middle of the hall, still dressed in the same attire. His bronze chest was bare and he only had a pair of trousers in his lower body. His dark brown tattoos were very much visible. The drought fiend brought Hung Jun to Qing Xiang and then turned to leave without saying a word. "I let you be the Yao King, not to teach you how to love human and create a family with them." Qing Xiang opened his mouth and broke the silence. "So, you want to kill me for this?" Hung Jun murmured. "If I really wanted to kill you, why would I bring you back?" Qing Xiang asked back. Light snow drifted down. As it fell down, it seemed to flutter and avoided the figure of Qing Xiang while Hung Jun's eyebrows and hair were covered with snow powder. He raised his eyes to stare at Qing Xiang quietly as words started to crowd in his chest. "Have you always been able to read minds?" Hong Jun asked. "Yes." Qing Xiang answered coldly. Hung Jun only felt that the Qing Xiang in front of him was completely different from the Qing Xiang who taught him how to read, write, and hunt, or the one who taught him all about the wonders of the mortal world. "Then no matter what I say, it wouldn't meant much," said Hung Jun. "If there's something you want to know, just get the answer yourself. Your heart is clear." Qing Xiang said, "You can always say whatever it is you meant to say. However, after being able to read minds for a long time, it's inevitable to read others' nasty thoughts, including those vile thoughts of that lover of yours." Hung Jun frowned slightly as he sized up Qing Xiang. "He's not vile," Hong Jun said. "Do you know what he was thinking?" Qing Xiang said, "On the day when the sacred land was inaugurated, Li Jinglong, the Marquis of Shu, was thinking of using a magical technique to seal the Tianluo mountain and turned it into a huge furnace using the heart lamp or any fire artifact in order to burn all the Yao within the mountain." Hong Jun remained quiet. Qing Xiang pondered for a moment before he leisurely said, "Unfortunately I cannot project his thoughts into your mind. Otherwise, I would really like for you to see what he was imagining." With subtle movements, Qing Xiang continued to murmur, "The beast Yao, the avian Yao." Everyone was struggling and writhing within a golden sea of fire until they burned into ashes, and he found it exhilarating. End chapter. Tianbao Fu Yao Lu. Chapter 211. Uncle and Nephew. As he spoke, Qing Xiang stepped down from the throne and walked towards Hung Jun, staring at him sympathetically. "Do you still believe in him now?" Qing Xiang said. "You can read his mind," Hong Jun said seriously. "That's good for you, but I can't read your heart. How can I confirm that his thoughts are really what you're saying?" Qing Xiang was startled. Hung Jun continued, "Moreover, what one was thinking can also be a lie. Qing Xiang, with your powers to perceive others' thoughts, you must have been leading a very boring life." Qing Xiang was instantly enraged. He took a deep breath and said, "You idiot." Hong Jun was not afraid at all and instead seriously said, "Go back, Qing Xiang. It's not yet too late." At this moment, many thoughts flowed into Hung Jun's mind. Qing Xiang possessed the power to see through others' thoughts. In all these years, he had never mentioned this to him and it made him more or less shudder. However, in front of Chongming and even his father Kongxian, did he also saw through their hearts? Thinking of how Chongming's attitude was and his words, it seemed that Qing Xiang was not. "That's enough. Qing Xiang said coldly, Hong Jun, what's the point of thinking about these things? Hong Jun put away these thoughts, but at this point, he couldn't help but felt sad for Qing Xiang. He always knew when others were lying to him, but he never exposed them. He was always aware when others feared him or were disgusted with him. You're the one who should turn back. Qing Xiang said in a deep voice, do you know what I see when I look at you now? Hong Jun straightened his body. He was dragging a chain and was shackled, wearing a tattered martial arts uniform. Hong Jun asked, what do I look like? Like a ruined sword. Qing Xiang said in a very neutral tone and heartlessly continued, your father gave me a piece of iron which I forged into a sword using Chongming's raging fire. We all hoped that you would turn into a sharp blade that we could use to stab our enemy's chest. But I ended up into Li Jinglong's hands. Hong Jun murmured, and he in turn deal with me himself. That's right. Qing Xiang seriously said, it surprised me a lot. You look so much like your father. Every time I look at you, it's like my brother is still alive, smiling as if he is still in front of me. Your clothes, however, disgusts me a lot. As he stepped down from the throne, he came to Hong Jun and inserted his fingers into his broken collar, bringing chill between his fingers. Then there was a sound of tearing silk as Qing Xiang violently ripped Hong Jun's outer robe. He then slapped him in the face hard enough to make Hong Jun felt faint. Hong Jun's internal strength was greatly suppressed. After such a slap, his vision became blurry and he almost fell kneeling down. He barely able to kept himself from standing. With his exposed upper body, he couldn't help but shiver. What you need is not a sword. Hong Jun wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and looked up at Qing Xiang slowly. You need a lamp. Qing Xiang sneered, have you forgotten how your father died? He died by the very lamp you wanted. Stop being stubborn. You beast. Qing Xiang seemed too unable to control his anger and he bellowed at Hong Jun, you betrayed your father. You have forgotten to take revenge. That's different. Hong Jun mercilessly interrupted Qing Xiang's scolding, and shouted back at him, if my father is still alive, he will make the same choice as me. At that moment, Hong Jun suddenly felt that Qing Xiang's eyes had changed. He was enraged just while ago, but at this moment, he revealed a sense of disgust and an unusual calmness. When will it end? Hong Jun raised his eyebrows toward Qing Xiang. It has to stop, Qing Xiang. It will never end. Qing Xiang returned to the throne and said coldly, I still have to say what needed to be said to you, Hong Jun, my little nephew. I'll give you a third choice. Accept the banishment from the Yao race and gave up the position of the Yao king. Hong Jun stood quietly in the hall. Even though his hands and feet were shackled, at this moment, he stood dignified and regal, like an awe-inspiring monarch. Don't even think about it. Hong Jun said, this position was properly passed on to me by Chongming. How can you think that you can be a Yao king? Qing Xiang suddenly laughed and said, what use is a Yao king who have an empty title and have no subordinates to command? Hong Jun replied seriously, it has nothing to do with who believes in me, who betrays me, who follows me and who leaves me. Even if you lock me up for thousands of years, you will never be the Yao king. Qing Xiang suddenly asked, who taught you that? Li Jinglong. Hong Jun was originally wearing the exorcism department uniform, but it was ripped apart by Qing Xiang. He was now bare-chested. His fair, slender, and muscular body stood in the ruins of Ming Hall, which was covered in snow. His attire at this point was now actually similar to the half-naked Qing Xiang, faintly resembling the royals' robes of Yejin Palace. This young man in tattered clothes were actually exuding the spirit of a true king in comparison to Qing Xiang, who sat on the throne but looked simply pretentious. Then I can only execute you in front of everyone. Qing Xiang said casually. Aside from you, there's also your companions. A Yao king who colluded with the exorcists. I think no matter what, no one will question my decision. Before you execute me, you'd better ask your old friend. Hung Jun said coldly, "It's not good if you get yourself killed instead. I asked him a long time ago." Qing Xiang said, "Your comrades planned to rescue you on the day of the execution, but then, they happened to step into my trap, and then," he leisurely continued, "naturally, they were all executed, and just like that, it will prove my words that the exorcism department will bring about the ultimate destruction of the Yao race." With that in mind, he turned his attention to Hung Jun again and said calmly, "Kong Xian died in the hands of the human race, but that's not the reason why I wanted to kill them. It was because that bastard Li Jinglong started something that no one wants to see into fruition. Hung Jun, do you know of the exorcism department's plans for the future after you and I are gone? Though I don't think you'll be interested. Since you are a kind person and only care not to see a bloodbath, but what about after your death? What will the exorcism department do?" Hung Jun frowned slightly. "You believe what you believe." Qing Xiang ended the conversation with his familiar tone. "I also believe in what I believe. We'll each go our own way, that's all. Come, take him away." Hong Jun was taken away. On the broken beam of the ruins of Ming Hall, a small white fox leaned over and quietly spied on everything. At dawn, the horses were ready and lined up in a row. Tu Raindoc brought Chen Feng to see them off. Li Jinglong had just woken up and was lost in thought atop his horse. Atai and Tu Raindoc said their goodbyes in quiet voices. Atai touched Tu Raindoc's head and kissed her on the forehead. Chang Feng came to the horse's side and looked up at Li Jinglong's boots that were in the stirrups. "Dad," Chang Feng said. "If you are always disobedient, Dad will not want you anymore," Li Jinglong casually said, glancing down under the horse. Chen Feng's tears rolled in his eyes while Li Jinglong continued, "If you leave without permission again, your mother will not want you either." "I won't leave," Chen Feng hurriedly said. "I promise you." Li Jinglong said, "I will bring your mother back." Chen Feng nodded incessantly and asked again, "When?" "Very soon." Li Jinglong said, "As soon as the cicadas started to call, we will come back." Chen Feng, "You promised." Li Jinglong, "When have I ever lied to you?" Chen Feng then stepped back a little. Mo Rijin, Qiu Yangxi and Lu Su mounted their horses. Atai gave his final goodbyes to Tu Raindoc and mounted his horse as well. The horses galloped out of Yuzhou and headed for Guangzhou at dawn. The sky was turning white. After Li Jinglong met up with everyone, he seemed to have a lot on his mind but didn't speak much. They took the overland route around the three gorges of the Yangtze River and took the route to Hanzhong first. Then they entered Chang'an to replenish their supplies and entered Luoyang through the 8 paths of Taihang. In the late spring season, everything was revived under a light rain. Li Jinglong unexpectedly did not rush them along the way. They traveled during the day and stayed at relay stations at night. After experiencing the Ungshi rebellion in the Central Plains, the roads were full of charred ruins of villages. There were miles and miles of wastelands and uncultivated fields after spring. The corpses had long decayed and crows would occasionally fly by. That night, the exorcism department arrived at an abandoned village and lit a bonfire in the ruins. Dark clouds covered the sky and there was a drizzling rain. It was so dark that they couldn't even see their own hands if they put them in front of them. "How far have we gone?" Lu Su asked. There was a soft sound of flint as Mo Rijin's voice was heard in the dark, "Chen Kang." "It called Baiji now," said in Qiu Yangxi's voice. They talked in the dark, though they couldn't see each other. Mo Rijin was still trying to start a fire. "Give it me." Li Jinglong's voice sounded. Mo Rijin fumbled around and placed the flint between Li Jinglong's fingers. Li Jinglong took it. Mo Rijin patted the back of his hand gently with his backhand. That tiny movement made Li Jinglong pause. There was another sound of flint as Li Jinglong asked, "Why is it called this now?" Yu Zhou replied, "Because those 2 chickens saved your emperor." Li Jinglong struck the flint twice and a fire lighted up, illuminating his handsome and persistent face. Lu Su thought that Morrigan was useless, that he could not even start a fire. Morrigan argued that the flint was damp and that if he were not rubbing the flint repeatedly earlier, how could have Li Jinglong lit them up successfully? The two argued for a while until Li Jinglong finally said, "Before a ray of light emerges, one has to work hard for half a day. Go to sleep and save your strength. We still have to hurry tomorrow." Rush traveling was nothing to the exorcists. Morrigan even appreciated the few opportunities to move his body. They all knew that Li Jinglong said this because he didn't want to talk. Everyone quietly found a place to lie down. The bonfire was small and there seemed to be something wailing in the distance. The sound was coming faintly. It had been a year since the beginning of that upheaval. The war brought almost irreparable damage to this land and the road was desolate along the way. But just like the fields in spring, everything would grow back again. The only difference was whether they were wheat or weeds. "Hey." Lu Su turned sideways but did not fall asleep. Morrigan asked Lu Su from behind. "Yuan Kun can predict the future, right?" Lu Su said faintly. The exorcists did not speak, but they weren't asleep yet either. Li Jinglong's eyes were wide opened and was lost in thought. Yu Zhou interjected, "The Kun God is very strong, he knows almost everything." Chu Yangxi said, "I understand what you mean, Xiao Lu." Lu Su still couldn't help but ask, "Then aren't our life and death already destined?" He probably even knew already that we are coming to save Hung Jun. He only has hints of it. Li Jinglong said in a deep voice. The exorcists fell silent and listened to him unanimously, but Li Jinglong only said these few words and did not continue. After a long time, Yu Zhou asked, "What hints?" Chu Yangxi said, "Don't ask. There are some things that can't be said at this time." Yu Zhou. Lu Su immediately understood and replied, "Once it was said, will he know of it?" "It doesn't really matter if it's said," Li Jinglong said. "It's just my speculation." In fact, since he returned to Yuzhou, he had never given any details of this operation to his subordinates. He only asked them to follow him to Luoyang. Based on the exorcist's understanding of him, Li Jinglong would usually have a complete set of detailed plans before the operation and explains them beforehand. The reason he didn't explain anything this time was naturally related to the Kun God. "If you think it's not good to say it, then you don't have to say it," Chu Yangxi said. Li Jinglong frowned slightly, as if considering. Yuan Kun's ability to predict the future was like a ghost. He is not here right now, but his ability was almost omnipresent, covering all corners. "Do you think?" Atai was also very puzzled and frowning deeply, that the Kun God could have foreseen us having this conversation today as early as a few years ago. Li Jinglong murmured, "In order to use this ability, he must have to pay a price. Otherwise, he will not wait until now." Chu Yangxi grunted and everyone fell silent again. Yu Zhou said again, "He can make people go back to the past through dreams." "Yes." Li Jinglong said lightly. "He even have the ability to change fate." "Does anyone think that our operation this time has no chance of success?" No one said anything, but Li Jinglong smiled slightly and said, "Well, I think it's the opposite. The side that has the upper hand this time is actually us." The others couldn't help but be moved. Lu Su frowned and said, "What do you mean?" Li Jinglong said in a deep voice, "The Kun God didn't hesitate to go through untold hardship to secure the heart lamp. Afterwards, Qing Xiang let Hung Jun leave Taihang Mountain in order to pass the heart lamp to me. On the day that Chang'an fell, he used Zhuangzhou dream butterfly technique to make me go back to the past and change the cause and effect. All for the sake of the present situation." Chu Yangxi said, "So, what's his goal after that?" "Right." Li Jinglong thought, "After going through the Zhuangzhou dream butterfly technique, I learned of an important clue. Hung Jun was originally destined to become Mara, but after changing the cause and effect by the Kun God's personal intervention, I changed the history from the 13th day of the 7th month on the 15th year of the Tianbao era. Yes. Mo Rejin replied. So, there will be a series of changes in history after that. Li Jinglong murmured. Qiu Yongxi instantly understood and said, the future that Kung God foresaw before the Ungshi rebellion was the future where Hung Jun became Mara, but this future was changed by him, which gave birth to a different path. So, a few years ago, he wouldn't have predicted what we were doing at this time. Lu Su said, but after the Chang'an rebellion, he can predict things again because that event was already confirmed. That's right. Li Jinglong sat up and leaned against a stone in front of the bonfire. He stared at the bonfire and said, a small change, such as Hung Jun's not becoming a Mara and not being purified, will inevitably cause a series of changes. The first thing he wants to confirm is whether that certain point that he's been very persistent about and paying attention to is different. What do you think that point is? Everyone sat up one after another, surrounding the campfire. Qiu Yongxi frowned, then shook his head. Actually, I've never been clear on what the Kung God wanted to do. Qiu Yongxi said seriously, wouldn't it be good if the human race and the Yao race could live in peace for thousands of years? Atai whispered, the matter between two races can't be entrusted with just wishes. Yu Zhou said, he doesn't seem to have great ambitions. Even now, he's only allowing Qing Xiang to take the lead but didn't seem to want to take the position himself. Li Jinglong murmured, that's why, I think that perhaps the reason lies with us. This time, I also got a little inspiration from our trip to Talas. The one who created history and prompted the Kung God to initiate a second war, was most probably ourselves. What? Lu Su was a little confused. Mo Rejin thought for a while and suddenly asked, what did you tell to Li Hung? With a smile in his eyes, Li Jinglong nodded and said, the plans for the future. End chapter. Tianbao Fu Yao Lu. Chapter 212. Steal the sky for another day. Li Jinglong had been pondering about Yuan Kun's motives these days. The war between Atai's Zoroastrianism and the Islamic world provided him with some inspirations. On that day he talked with Li Hung and discussed that with his subordinates, he would establish an exorcism department that would last for thousands of years. It would become a shadow within the human government, forever hiding amongst the normal people of the divine land. Perhaps this was the beginning of that history. At this time, the exorcism department does not pose any threat to the Yao race. Li Jinglong said to everyone, then what about 100 years, 200 years, 800 years or even 1,000 years later? Qiu Yongxi's expression was solemn as he said in a deep voice, perhaps you have found the answer. Li Jinglong said, I think the Kung God's intention to change the future was not to save Hung Jun nor was it to help us. From the beginning to the end, he was after only one goal. The destruction of the exorcism department. Mo Rejin understood instantly. If he wanted to act on this, there were plenty of opportunities. Why would he go through so much unnecessary troubles? Lu Su frowned. If he destroyed us too early. Qiu Yongxi countered, who will deal with Mara? They can't even defeat Xiaoyu by themselves, so they needed to rely on us to do that. Li Jinglong nodded. Everyone vaguely felt that this might be the only truth. So, Li Jinglong snapped his fingers and said, this is the hint. The Kung God knew that changing the future is something that he cannot do by himself. Changing the future requires a very complicated and careful design. Starting with Hung Jun was the easiest path because there were many who would work together for this. He only needed to push things along and things would eventually be completed by someone else, such as myself. Then, let's make a guess. Li Jinglong said, after the Battle of Chang'an, has the farther future he cared about, the fate of the Yao race, been changed? I guess not. Qiu Yongxi smiled cunningly. I don't think so either. Li Jinglong raised his eyebrows. Because if he didn't start with us, the result would be logical. We will find the artifacts of Akalanatha and then, we will completely purify the already crippled devil seed. That's right, Lu Su muttered, "That's why he is the one most worried right now." Li Jinglong nodded and said, "The longer the future, the harder it is to change it. You can force me to eat or not to eat breakfast tomorrow morning, but I wouldn't be able to decide where I will be 3 years later, because the cause of this effect is more complicated than deciding whether to have a meal the next day." Chu Yangxi said, "Assuming that the exorcism department has indeed been passed down for thousands of years, then sometime in the future, the Yao race would be completely silent in the world. What the Kun God wants to do is to get rid of us, and the person he wants to get rid of the most is Xinji. In order to achieve this goal, he is bound to pay a hefty price." Li Jinglong nodded and said, "But the future that Yuan Kun fears is one where we are the destined winner." He stared at the bonfire, as if from there he could see the fate of the exorcism department and the Yao race after thousands of years. "As long as he doesn't come," Yu Zayun whispered, "the human race will win." Hong Jun whispered inside his prison, "He will definitely come." Yu Zayun raised her eyes and stared at Hong Jun. "This is the most critical part. How will he win if he didn't come?" Hong Jun asked with a frown. "You are too stupid." Yu Zayun said, "I can't explain it to you clearly. I will inform the Corpse Ghost King later and send someone to contact the exorcists." Hong Jun said, "Do you think that the Kun God could even predict our plan?" Yu Zayun shook her head and replied, "He came back with injuries. His mana must be reduced, and he also must prepare for the next battle. If it is a must for him to use his power of predictions, his attention will definitely be focused on that lover of yours. After all, the exorcists pose the greatest danger to him." Hong Jun seemed to somewhat understood, but he was still mostly confused. Yu Zayun added, "The reason why he narrowed down the scope of the plan is to prevent him from becoming too suspicious quickly." "It's fine." Hong Jun said, "My brain will simply drag everyone down." "That's not too bad," Yu Zayun said lightly. "I don't want to serve a superior who schemes too much. That would be too tiring." After saying this, Yu Zayun left quietly by jumping out of the skylight of the prison cell and returned to the ground. It was dawn and a few bird song could be heard from outside. The sunlight shone from under the skylight. Hong Jun looked out of the skylight and could only see the big, gray sky. "Sleep for a while," Du Hanking whispered outside the prison. Hong Jun was tired and thirsty. He leaned against the damp cell wall and yawned. Du Hanking squeezed in through the gap in the prison door, curled up in Hong Jun's arms and closed his eyes. Not long after, the slight sound of iron chains rang out, accompanied by the sound of Yu Zayun's voice. "I'm afraid I was unable to unlock it. We can't even break it even if we hit it against the wall. Unless it's Jing Xiang, no one else can unlock these shackles." Hong Jun suddenly opened his eyes and found out that the Corpse Ghost King had arrived. The Corpse Ghost King changed his full body armor and was instead wearing a light dark suit that was easy to move in. Under the mask, the half of his gray-blue upper face and eyes were exposed. Yu Zayun dragged an iron chain in, and with her paw, she woke up Du Hanking in Hong Jun's arms and said, "It's time to work." Du Hanking opened his eyes and looked at Yu Zayun and then at Hong Jun. Hong Jun looked at the iron chain in Yu Zayun's arms and said, "What are you going to do?" The chain was exactly the same as the one tethered to him, and the position of the rune was also exactly the same. The Corpse Ghost King carefully grasped the iron grid of the prison cell that was as thick as an arm. He stretched it out and pulled it open until the gap was wide enough for a person to pass through, and then crawled in. "Let's try it." Yu Zayun stared at the chain attached to the wall in Hong Jun's hand nervously. "There are 3 ordinary chains. The most troublesome is the one on his left foot." Hong Jun looked back at the place where the iron chain was tied. The Corpse Ghost King stretched out, and Yu Zayun said, "Hurry up, Ghost King." The last time the Drought Fiend took off the iron chain, it was pulled out of the wall. There was a solid lock on the wall. It took a lot of effort to break it. The Corpse Ghost King used both of his hands until the lock slowly opened and the chain was pulled out. Hong Jun quickly caught the chain that fell on the ground and said, "But if I leave, Qing Xiang will definitely find out. It's alright. Du Hanqing whispered. Immediately after, Du Hanqing turned around, stood up from the ground and transformed into another Hung Jun. Hung Jun, take your clothes off and give it to him. Yu Zayun said. Hong Jun. Hung Jun's shirt was ruined and he only had a pair of trousers on. He was even barefooted, but he has no choice but to take them off and gave them to Du Hanqing, leaving him naked. After a while, Du Hanqing, who had transformed into Hung Jun, fastened the chain and the corpse ghost king reattached the chain again. Hong Jun said, I will come back to save you soon. The other Hung Jun smiled and said, go on. I will be fine. Hung Jun seldom looked in the mirror. At most, he would do so to just straighten his clothes. He was very much aware that the him in the mirror was different from the real one. However, when he looked at the transformed Du Hanqing smile, he suddenly felt the warmth feeling that Li Jinglong felt whenever he looked at him. Go quickly. Yu Zayun urged, Hanqing, you must be careful of the golden winged giant Peng. Do not expose yourself. The other Hung Jun nodded while the real Hung Jun dragged his shackled legs out. He looked back at Du Hanqing and the two said goodbye to each other. The corpse ghost king pulled back the prison bars, shook out a cloak and wrapped it around Hung Jun. They couldn't unlock his shackles, so the corpse ghost king could only carry Hung Jun horizontally. Hung Jun hurriedly said, I can walk by myself. Yu Zayun had already scouted ahead. The corpse ghost king didn't say anything and just walked forward holding Hung Jun. The corpse ghost king held Hung Jun sideways and left the prison quickly. Hung Jun discovered that he was kept in the same place where they had rescued those people that An Lushan kept as food. After exiting the tunnel, they arrived at a spacious underground palace. When they reached the surface, the corpse ghost king was like a phantom in the dark. He reached the top of the wall with a whoosh. They were only one step away from the Luyang Palace when they heard the sound of birds flapping their wings. The corpse ghost king immediately knelt down on one knee, not daring to move rashly. Hong Jun wanted to take a look, but the corpse ghost king stretched out a hand and pressed down on his head, gesturing for him not to move. Hung Jun was pressed against the corpse ghost king's chest. It was a very strange feeling. Li Jinglong hugged him like this before. His heartbeat was strong. The corpse ghost king, on the other hand, was like a statue. He was so still and his surroundings was filled with the aura of death. After an unknown amount of time, Yu Zayun jumped down from above and said in a low voice, the birds had been lured away by food. You have an incense stick amount of time before they finish eating. The corpse ghost king did not even wait for Yu Zayun to finish her sentence. He jumped forward and carried Hung Jun above the palace wall, and quickly evacuated along the moat. Hung Jun looked into the distance and saw that under the dusky sky, the ruins of the Ming Hall were filled with a dense mass of birds. It really was impossible to escape by himself. Even if he succeeded in breaking free from the prison, he would be discovered by the birds that Qing Xiang sent on reconnaissance as soon as he went up to the surface. He was very tired. He leaned against the corpse ghost king and fell asleep. He felt that the corpse ghost king had carried him over many places. Then they finally stopped after a long time. It was dark all around. Then suddenly, the lights came on. Your Majesty. A voice said anxiously. Hung Jun opened his eyes and in front of him was someone with a layer of gauze on the head, which greatly surprised him. Zhao Yun. Hung Jun said, are you all right? Let me see. Zhao Yun wanted to prevent him from doing so, but Hung Jun pulled him. However, it was Zhao Yun who ended up dragging Hung Jun. Only then did Zhao Yun realize that Hung Jun lost all of his mana and was very weak. He ended up supporting Hung Jun instead. Hung Jun untied the bandage on Zhao Yun's head. He found that the flesh on Zhao Yun's head had rotted, but he had become very much like a human. He was almost naked and his body was covered in medicated gauze and white cloth. He was scarred all over. This is... Hong Jun said, what happened to your skin? Zhao Yun said, it doesn't matter as long as your majesty is fine. Hung Jun looked around with the help of the light. He saw that this was a dark and narrow house. Outside, snowflakes were still floating about. The corpse ghost king sat on the side silently. Yu Zayun was nowhere to be seen. When I was molding, I was almost eaten by the golden-winged giant Peng. Zhao Yun said, it was Zhao Zilong who saved me and took me to escape through the Yangtze River. The corpse ghost king saved my life with his magic. Hong Jun closed his eyes and sighed. Then he looked at the corpse ghost king. The corpse ghost king just nodded lightly. Zhao Yun said again, this is the Luoyang exorcism department. The Luoyang exorcism department was burned down when An Lushan attacked this place. A few rooms miraculously escaped the fire and remained intact. Zhao Yun found some food in the ruins. The corpse ghost king reached out to Hung Jun and said, let me look at your shackles. Hung Jun sat on the table. The corpse ghost king lowered his head under the light and examined at the shackles. He found out that they really can't do anything about this. These shackles is used to tie avian yao and is called the Kinji chain. The corpse ghost king said in a deep voice, it can't be unlocked. Originally, Hung Jun's 4 limbs were all shackled, but 3 of them were with ordinary iron shackles which they had placed to do hanking. The only troublesome thing was this thin but heavy Kinji chain. The corpse ghost king pondered for a long time. Yu Zayun came back and brought a few fish. He said, Luoyang has suffered a lot from the war. Food is scarce, but I found a few fish for you in the Lu River. They're small but just make do with it. Zhao Yun quickly replied, this is enough. Thus, he set up a brazier and grilled the fish for Hung Jun. Hung Jun hadn't eaten since he was captured and was extremely hungry. First, he drank a lot of water, then he wolfed down the fish heedless of fish bones. Only afterwards did he finally feel a little better. Zhao Yun, the corpse ghost king and Yu Zayun sat around Hung Jun. The brazier which was burning vigorously, filling the room with warmth. Hung Jun changed into a robe that Zhao Yun found probably from one of the former residence's corpses. Hung Jun watched the flame silently. What are we going to do next? Yu Zayun asked. Are we going to wait for Li Jinglong? The corpse ghost king said, he won't understand. After saying that, the corpse ghost king was about to get up and leave, but Hong Jun said, wait. Everyone looked at Hung Jun as Hung Jun thought for a moment. Then he said, if you don't want to wait for him, then we have to come up with a plan of action first. Both Yu Zayun and the corpse ghost king were very surprised. Hung Jun felt a little guilty as he looked at the 3 in front of him and said, I'm sorry, I've let you down. Zhao Yun said, you went to look for the artifacts to destroy Mara. This isn't your fault. Hung Jun said, I thought about it seriously. I indeed did not fulfill my duty as the Yao King. The Yao race has been falling apart for years. The corpse ghost king said in a deep voice, it's difficult to control all of them. You don't need to blame yourself. If it is so easy, Xia you would have succeeded a long time ago and things won't be as it is today. Hung Jun nodded and said, but I at least have to keep everyone in mind. In the future, I will remind myself that I am the Yao King and not just an exorcist. Yu Zayun narrowed her eyes as she felt the subtle change in Hung Jun. Hung Jun continued, I have to first find a way to get out of these shackles. In the end, it could only be Qing Xiang. I think I might have to take the risk of letting Du Hanking ask him. Do we have the cure for the boss snake fang venom? I'll arrange it. Yu Zayun said indifferently, what else? We need to get information and find a way to get rid of this. Hung Jun pulled the chain around his feet with his hand and said, then find my pentacolor sacred knives and jade peacock plume. No problem. Yu Zayun said, are you going to fight Qing Xiang next? Hung Jun turned to the corpse ghost king and asked, how many men does the corpse army have? 50,000 corpse ghost cavalry, the corpse ghost king said in a deep voice, are willing to fight for you. Yu Zayun said, although the beast clan cultivation level is low, it is still possible to contain Qing Xiang. The aquatic clan led by the Kun god does not know how to fight on land. So, as long as our soldiers are not dragged into the water, we shouldn't be in much of a danger from them. Hung Jun nodded and said, I need someone to hold off the Kun god for me. I'll be responsible for dealing with him. Yu Zayun said, can you fight Qing Xiang? I'll try. Hung Jun thought, the glaive made with pentacolor sacred knives is indestructible. As long as I get the chance, it should be enough to heavily injure Qing Xiang. Otherwise, every time he used it, it would consume a lot of his mana. If it was in the past, he definitely wouldn't dare to fight Qing Xiang rashly. However, things were different now. Chongming gave him the power to fly. He also had the power of the Phoenix sacred flame in his body, but he needed to break free of this Qingji chain. Then after enough rest, he could start dealing with Qing Xiang. End chapter.